Now, with this, I go to the next panelist, last but not the least, since it is in alphabetical order, Vivek, to you. Now, you have started working on something which was very unique at one point of time, working on, you know, clinical trial and trying to work with multiple agencies, companies, regulatory, to bring new trial to India, and at a time when clinical trial was a very, very difficult subject to hear. Now, when we think about clinical trial, patient group, and this young segment of population, what message, what experience you would like to share?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, please.
Namaste to everyone. Thanks the organizers, Professor Chitalkar, my respected, my inspiring leaders, Vanna ji, Viji, Alpna ji, Dr. Pallavi, and Prabhat ji for the opportunity. It's my honor to be here. On clinical trials, I think there is no better time than today, under COVID times, to understand what is clinical trial and how important they are. In last 1 year, even a layman person in rural village can understand what clinical trial is, because they are hearing news, they are understanding their vaccine is coming, this is in clinical trial phase 1, this company clinical trial data is not good. And even one of the day I was going to bring milk, and the milkman was discussing this with me about clinical trial, because he was hearing the news. So the only thing which COVID did good is to help us understand what is clinical trial and why they are important. I'm thankful that Colonel Amol said in starting that they are going to take action. So it means today patient voice is not only being heard, it is being listened, and we are going to take actions and ensure action. And thank you, because nothing is more important than patient voice, which is the center of everything. And I'm connecting this patient voice to the clinical trial part. So you may have heard the news yesterday or earlier today that ivermectin HCQ, which was called miracle drugs in COVID, has been dropped out even for the mild COVID case, because they don't found at all useful in the clinical trial. The vaccines we are taking, they pass clinical trial. The paracetamol we are taking, past clinical trials. Anything which is right has to pass clinical trial. So the question is, the answer is, we talk about affordability, and I want to challenge this whole affordability issue. Yes, access issue is there if it is not in India, and I want to challenge whole thinking as doctors, medical community, patient advocates, NGOs, that our focus is how to get the reduce the medicines to work with the companies, or with Ayushman Bharat, what medicine could be there. But could that answer our problem? If it has put the answer, the problem may have been solved year back. The problem is that in India, nothing is rare. We have such a huge population. The problem is, when I talked with CEO of Ayushman Bharat, why not a single lung cancer targeted therapy in it? He asked me, what is targeted therapy? The problem is, we are talking about 15-20 lakh per month medicine and begging to pharma companies that we need medicine to afford. How many can afford even 1 lakh per month of medicine? Forgot about 15 lakh. Our 40% of Indian population who part of Ayushman Bharat don't have not a single latest treatment that's called targeted therapy. And we are at beg of pardon from either pharma companies or government, and that where the advocacy brings. And for me, advocacy is what is, from what is to what should be, and that we have to do. And when it comes to the clinical trial and how patients advocate, and we all can do is, so I was with DCGI office and Ministry of Health. They were a combined meeting, and there were doctors, with all due respect, pharma companies, they were talking, and I was there with Kusum listening, and it was like a typical meeting, kind of a commercial, not commercial is not the right meaning. It was a meeting which was talk about, okay, this medicine, what is not approved, but there was no humanity there. The patient voice brings that humanity. They make the problem humanitarian, and that's very important. When Kusum and I start to spoke, the whole environment changed. And we raised 3 points at that day. One was at that time, PI could have 2 clinical trials. There was restriction of number of beds, and there was there was some rules about phase 3 clinical trials. And within 1 month, every rule changed within only 1 month. So the takeaway message is nothing is more empowered or powerful than patient voice if it is given the opportunity. And patients are not different, oncologists are not different. We are all on this together. We are a team. Then we can win it. Obviously the ethical clinical trials is the answer. Now coming to the next point, and which is important, which where I started, is we cannot only work, say, advocacy to reduce the price. We have to, when Colonel Patel said that in 3 months India has created the vaccine, what we can do. So think, for every cancer, if we can start to R&D manufacture, if for every cancer we have clinical trial in India, all those medicines will be available for free of cost. And when clinical trial comes, for example, in case of Novartis Sedatin, which my wife take, the cost was 15 lakh per month. We bring clinical trial. She was the first patient. Now the cost is 30,000 per month. If not all, most of the people can afford that medicine. So clinical trial is the most unmet medical need in this country. It is the unmet medical need in not only the patient, with media, with government, and within the medical community who are not ready for that. There is still lot of lack of awareness, and our efforts are going to reduce the cost, and which is right. But why not to bring? Why only asking for Baisakis? Why not make our system so powerful that we eat food and we don't need Baisakhi? Why don't we have every clinical trial? In last 10 years, for example, in lung cancer, and lung cancer now is not a disease of old, aged and smokers. That's why I want to bring this topic to this young adults conference, that as Colonel Patel put in a chat box, that most of the cases in India right now in lung cancer are young, very young, 20, 30, 25. Even I have met yesterday 12-year-old boy who found with lung cancer. Most of the young cancer people are never smokers. This is the new India, and this is the problem. And last week, and if you, someone of you follow me, we met with a 2 and 5-year-old ALK positive IMT patient. That's the new problem. And so this is important that we bring all trials. And for example, in lung cancer, in 10 years, you know how many clinical trials we had? 60 in last 10 years. And in 60, how many was phase 3, how many have passed, as compared to Singapore, hundreds in 1 year, as compared to any other country. So I think I cannot emphasize much, but few words, that research saves life, clinical trial saves life. We all can continue to fight for Ayushman Bharat. We should be to ask companies to bring more patient assistant program, but the answer is that we have to bring research, we have to bring clinical trial of every clinical trial at the same time in India. You see every doctor involved, not a single patient will left, and not to have to hesitate for money. And this will be a new India, and it will come if we will learn from this COVID times. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivekji. Very, very rightly said. I think every word what you expressed makes a lot of sense, and I was writing, and I think I wrote everything what you spoke.